You only need it to work one time. You're chasing a dream, going toward an ambition. You only need the thing to work one time. And after that one time, that is your life now. You have to make a choice, and your choosing to not take an action is an action within and of itself. So if you don't choose, you subject yourself to the people that do. So make the choice today, because it's the inner and then the outer. You cannot have the sense organ without the sense object, and vice versa. So make the choice to get what you want out of life. And it's really that simple. Whenever it comes down to it, you just have to make the decision, and most people never do. Everything in life is really easy if you have a high IQ. It's just a matter of recognizing the steps to achieve something and then doing those steps, like just following directions. And if you have critical thinking ability, then your ability to follow steps, which you create yourself, is what's going to lead you to the desired goal, to success, which is just moving toward a worthy ideal. It's just avoiding pettiness, meanness, hatefulness, resentment. I see a lot of people talk about how having those things can boost, and it can, but for the most part, positivity is always going to outweigh the lingering side effects of negativity. So if you choose to have a positive outlook on life, you are always going to outdo the person who has a negative outlook on life. You can have a million years of thinking about planning and preparation toward whatever your goal is, but the one thing that's actually going to get you there is taking steps. So if you're not actively taking steps toward your goal, then you're simply not going to achieve it. And that could even be taking steps in the wrong direction to redirect yourself and snap back into reality and be like, oh, this isn't working, let's do something new. Because that's what really learning is about. If I say go left and then you go right, then you didn't learn. What learning objectively is taking some kind of input data and then applying that to your life based on an outcome. So if you want to learn how to achieve making pizza, are you going to look up a step to make pizza, or are you going to start with the dough? You know what I mean? You cannot become a millionaire by going into being a millionaire. You can only become a millionaire by getting to the dough first. You get the flour. How do you grow the crop? How do you obtain the seed? All these things are the stepping stones to that ultimate goal, which is the end purpose, right? The end goal is only achieved once, but the journey is achieved continuously. That's why if you plant your value on the achievement itself, you're never going to be fulfilled. Which you won't be on a materialistic plane anyway, because we need Jesus Christ, but the point still stands that the journey is more fulfilling than the destination, and especially the people that you meet along the way. By definition, someone who is rare is not going to come into your life very constantly. So that could even be someone who only appears sporadically, is there for a week and then is gone for a couple of months. And there's actually a law of power by Robert Greene, if you've read that book, which I'm sure you're familiar with it, which is essentially wherever the king shows up at the theater once a month, it becomes a grand event. But if he shows up every Friday, it's like, oh, the king's here, he must not have anything better to do. But if he shows up once a year, he'll be forgotten about. So it still needs to be consistent, but not too consistent wherever it underlies the value of your presence. And you can take this principle and apply it to your life and recognize that if you want to get the most out of someone, you need to follow up with them. Continuously come back in. And for the ones that are supposed to be in your life more on a daily basis, you can still learn from them, but real growth takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Unless you're a high IQ individual, in which case it's going to take 20 hours to get a full round identification for what a skill set is. Because if you spend 20 hours on a video game, that video game is the back of your hand at this point. You're very familiar with it. If you spend 20 hours on Minecraft, then you're going to know how Minecraft works. You're going to understand the story. You're going to understand how to create things. And you can learn that within the first 2 hours. But most people just never start. They want to plan, they want to prep. So I say instead of planning and prepping, just start the action. Just take the initiative, because in our society, you're going to be judged regardless. You are going to be condemned for X, Y, and Z. And you don't want to place your value, the divine nature, the inner value. He wants to talk over me. You don't want to place the divine nature on an external exponent. You want to place it on the internal, because we create our own reality. And if you place the internal value first, you're going to project that into the world to begin with. So people are going to assume that if you have inner competency, that you'll express that in the outer. So they'll see you more like that characteristic that you want to become or inhabit. And we actually do that. We possess the spirit or the energy of whatever we choose. So if you are constantly thinking about a person, that person's energy is essentially inhabiting your body. Because on an energetic level, if you want to get into the more woo-woo stuff, everything is energy. I am energy, the camera you're watching this on is energy, the phone that you're viewing this video on is energy. And you can accept that energy and allow it to take part or not. And if you don't, then the energies which you fear and which the unconscious already has programs are what you're going to inhabit. And that's how you achieve what you want out of life, is reprogramming yourself. Like on a computer, it takes a instruction in order to get an execution, and our mind works the same way. But we already have all these set instructions that were given to us from childhood or from society or classmates or coworkers. And if we take those and throw them out the window because you don't want to live like those people, you want to live the ideal version of yourself, which, look, that's the most productive way of going about life, is idealism. And you take those opinions, you throw them out, and then you program the opinions of people that you do want to be like, which everyone has programmings. There's nothing new under the sun. Every philosophical thought that possibly can be pondered on has been pondered on, whether it's recorded or not. So take your choosing and recognize there's an X number of species of cat, right? There's only a limited number of which you can inhabit, and then choose the highest self. Because what I view a failure is someone who is allowing resentment, hatefulness, petty meanness, passive aggressiveness to daunt their character, to obscure the higher self, and that shadow just casts on it. But someone who is successful is operating from the higher self, and even if they're not a material success, they are still successful because they are inhabiting the intention of moving toward a worthy ideal. The internal desires are being expressed in the external world. They're not going to hold back and not tell you what they truly think. And there's a time and place to hold your silence, but when it comes and push comes to shove, and they always tell you the truth even whenever it's not comfortable, and they want to grab you and put you up to a standard of greatness, that's a person that you actually want to stick around in your life, because those people are far and few in between, and whenever you have it, you can recognize it. And it doesn't need to be expressed into words, because most of communication is not expressed in words. It is expressed entirely by energetic expression, which then turns into body language. Because as we've discussed before, the inner is the external. If you have an inner world that is hateful, anger, fiery, you're going to express that in the outer world. And sometimes it can even project itself as the manifestation of your house burning down, or someone projecting hate at you. Because if I say, wow dude, you have really ugly blue hair, you're gonna give me a second look. You're like, what are you talking about? I don't have blue hair. And it's like, so if I say you're a really hateful person, and you know that you're not a really hateful person, why would it affect you? We're only affected by the things that we have an insecurity about. And most people never took the time to peel away these layers of insecurity, which don't allow them to become the true, authentic, confident person that they want to be. Articulation is the allowing of that inner self without insecurities to then come into the inner world and interact with people in a productive way. Because that's really what relationships are. It's an exchange of energy. You're not going to associate with someone who just steals your energy. And you might fall into that trap, and many people do, but hopefully you have the 2 cents to get yourself out. And I'm not making the video for someone who doesn't have that 2 cents. Now let's talk about actual articulation. Articulation is whenever you fully pronounce each syllable of the word and you pronounce it with your chest. And then on top of that, you have the consistency at which you speak. So if you are rapidly speaking like this and you don't have any kind of break within, it doesn't sound right. But if I say, if you have the consistency in which you place importance on specific words and slow down, you don't want to be like that guy. Don't interrupt people. That is the worst thing that you could do. We all do it, but if you really just become conscious, don't ever be like that guy. Don't ever be like the rooster who interrupts people, because it never ever works in your favor. People want to be heard. People want to know that other people understand them. And especially whenever it's in business and you're working a consulting gig with a very personal demand, people want to be guided. They want you to hold their hand, because we're social creatures. And if you're a part of my tribe, where do you draw the line for this is too personal? Very seldom is something too personal in someone's life. Discussing finances is personal. Guiding someone toward the truth, it's a personal journey, but people want to know the truth. They want to understand it and live in it. Who wants to live in a lie? Maybe some stupid teenage girl wants to live in a lie through TikTok, but like I said, we're not making these videos for that type of person. The kind of personality trait that you want to have is just wait a second. This is the kind of personality trait you want to have. He jogged over here all excited to come and let me pet him because he's a good boy. Yes, you are a good boy. This is the kind of personality trait you want to have. He's very attractive. He's good looking. Maybe he took the black pill. He's a looks maxer, right? He grooms himself. But he's just fun to be around. His energy is good, positive. He's not looking to harm people. He doesn't judge no one, which just because a judgment can be made or opinion can be made doesn't mean you should be the one doing it. But look at, you can just tell from his energy, his aura, that he's just a good guy. He's chill. He don't get bothered by nothing. He's just enjoying the present. And then you hear that rooster and he's like, and you hear the rooster, fuck you, dude. That's what the rooster is giving off. I don't want to be around you. Who wants to be around a rooster, man? Be with your homie dog. That's the kind of energy you want to have. The rooster is entitled. He's just entitled. He's just rude. He just constantly overtalks you. He's aggressive. He's like just way too hypergamous, hypersexual. He just wants to get laid all day, and he just, like, dude, don't be like a rooster, be like the dog. Because the dog is a homie, the dog is loyal, the dog will defend you, the dog will be your best friend, he'll sit with you when it's raining, he'll smell your balls apparently, which I don't want your, dude, the rooster again, don't be like the rooster. So don't let your friends smell your balls. But look, he's just a good boy. I'm not saying let your homies pat your head, but some of you weird ass dudes are gonna think about it like that. But he's just sniffing around and he's just protecting you, and he slobbers all over you. Damn, buddy. Get you a loyal dog. Get you someone who understands you. Whenever you're in the B2B or even B2C business types, it's all about just understanding other people. And also, you have to have Christ in it. You have to have Jesus Christ, because Daniel Carnegie, the man who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People, he essentially died alone. Like, because you principle doesn't mean that it's not going to be like, this is why you need authenticity. You can have all the principle in the whole world, but if you're not actually who you present yourself as, dude, don't be like the rooster. Don't be like the rooster. if you're not like who you actually are in the internal, and you don't express that in the external, and it's not clear to other people that you don't give a shit what their opinions are, and you're still going to maintain the same character with all people to lesser and higher degrees, don't be like the Rooster. You don't want to be all lovey-dovey with someone that's not your romantic interest. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there has to be a consistent spine in all your personas that comes from the within. Because like us, people are like a shattered glass on the ground, and you can see all these different angles from every single side and all the different spectrums of light that's being reflected, but that's not the whole picture. The whole picture is the whole mirror, but we only project ourselves individually as each shattered glass depending on who we're with. And so you want to be the whole mirror. That's the ideal. And you want to educate yourself as much as you possibly can on the other person. Because just because you're authentic doesn't mean you can't take an interest and be fully enveloped in the other person whenever they're speaking. I mean, we're put here to have that experience in the first place anyway. You're supposed to want to be social. You're supposed to want to understand other humans and be productive and have fun while you're doing it. It doesn't have to be this like gloom task that don't be like the Rooster, that doesn't allow you to fun while you're doing stuff. Like, go have fun. You know, this brings me on to my next point. Most people in their 20s, you know, you've heard it before, they'll work them up or live them up. And either way, you're going to be either an under-experienced 30-year-old or an unprepared 30-year-old. So those are your two options. But honestly, what else is there to do in your 20s? When has it been commonly accepted to give up your 20s to go experience the world? Like, what have you been doing this whole time? What are you doing right now? Like, this perception of like, I can't travel and work. I can't do XYZ and this. It's like, you're in the prime of your energy. Like, the embodiment of testosterone, masculinity, just pure flame. And you're telling me you can't? Don't be like the Rooster. And you're telling me you can't go out there and win, but also enjoy people's company? Like, what? Like, have the Mamba mentality. Be like top of your thing. Like, completely obsessed. But if you're around people that understand your goal and vision, they'll respect it. And I watched a video the other day of someone who said something along the lines of, don't be like the Rooster. I don't believe in the fact that surround yourself with 5 people and you'll end up like them. Because his reasoning was this, and I can see that standpoint, was that if you are disciplined enough, you will be able to go outside that group and still maintain your discipline despite you hanging around undisciplined people. So essentially his point was that your group doesn't create you, which is just a complete and utter lie. Because if you actually live in reality, despite this idealism, and I can see where he's coming from, if you live in reality, you recognize how messy everything is. Like, relationships, people's lives, like, if you don't make the intention to organize it, is so messy. And if we look at our group around us and people around us, we have to recognize the fact that they do influence us in practically every way of our life. I mean, your friends are going out to get food and they're like, hey, you want to come along? Where are we going? Oh, we're going to go down and get pizza. All right, I'm in. And then you want to hang out with them, but what are you going to do? Not order food? Like, people do that, but there will always be a slip-up time wherever you're like, okay, going to get food with them, I'm going to eat what they eat. You know, not to say that you can't do that, but when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. And we all have this tribal mentality. And so whenever it comes down to it, your 5 people, the closest 5 people to you, do influence you to such a degree that it's subconscious programming. And the most conscious minds of today's world cannot be outdoed by social pressure. I wouldn't know about them if it wasn't for social pressure.